Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Uh, can we share our screen? Screen there? Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to share our screen. Okay. Wow. So the ice is brittle outside. Just a few feet away. There are polar bears in our patio. Okay. Can you see Hanuman?
Yes, yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Now let's try our PowerPoint show here. Oh, here's something else happening. Oh yeah, we had the verse here. Okay. This is a very nice verse here. Oof, see there. Okay. So we have Shrimad Bhagavatam 9, 19, 17. Matra svashva duhitrava
Matra swastra duhitrava
navavikta shano bhavet
na vivikta sano bhavet
balavanandriya gramo
balavan indriya gramo
vidvangsam apikarshati.
vidvansam api karshati.
Boliega.
Should I recite, Maharaj?
Yeah, yeah. It's my Hindi. Please chant. Boliega.
Matra swastra duhitrava
Matra svasra duhitrava
na vivikta sano bhavet
navivikta shano bhavet
balavan indriya gramo
balavanandriya gramo
vidvan samapi karshati.
vidvangsam apikarshati. Someone else? Ladies, gentlemen?
Matra Swarasa Duhitrava
Matra svasra duhitrava
Naviviktas no Bhaved
naviviksha shano bhavet
Balavanindriya Gramo
balavanandriya gramo
Vidvam Sapi Karashati.
vidvangsam apikarshati. Somebody else.
Matra swasra duhitrava
Ma-
navivik
Matra svasra duhitrava
naviviktasano bhavit
naviviktashano bhavet
palavandindriya gramo
balavanindriya gramo
vidvam samabhikarshati.
vidvangsam apikarshati. Matra
Matra
with one's mother.
with one's mother.
This is matra.
Swastra.
Svasra
Swastra.
with one's sister.
With one's sister.
Duhit, duhitra,
Duhitra.
one's daughter.
With one's daughter.
No, matra svasra duhitra. Matra svasra va.
Va.
Either.
Either.
Na.
Na.
Not.
Not.
Avivikta asanaha.
Avivikta asanaha.
Seated closely on one seat.
Seated closely on one seat.
Bhavet.
Bhavet.
One should not. I say one should be.
One should be.
Balaban.
Balavan.
Very strong.
Very strong.
Indriya gramaha.
Indriya gramaha.
The group of senses.
the group of senses.
Vedvangsam,
Vidvansam,
a very learned and advanced person.
a very learned, the very learned and advanced person.
Api,
Api,
even
even.
Karshati,
Karshati,
agitates.
agitates.
Where's our? There it is. Yeah, I gotta turn off the matra, swashra, hitrava, na avivik, na aviviktashino bhavet. Lavan indriya gramo, vangsam api karshati. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's mother, uh, mother, sister, or daughter. The senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. And of course, the senses are just like machines, or you know, uh, physical, chemical, physical machines. We were able to study, upper division biology, mammalian physiology at the University of California. It's quite nice. Really see how this body is a very sophisticated chemical and mechanical machine. And but the senses, but the intelligence is absorbed in the mode of ignorance into the senses and the sense objects. Yeah. So when the senses move a certain way, if we see the Rath Yatra cart, okay, the intelligence is is Krishna conscious. But here is saying that even sitting, and of course we all maintain with our intelligence space. Space is generated from the mind. So many very wonderful studies on this and cultural anthropology, perception. It's a very, very useful tool for preaching that we generate our space. We're not conscious of it. It's subconscious. Yeah, yeah. And so then if we're seated with somebody, that proximity automatically creates a certain reaction and so on. And of course, the exact opposite is true for ladies. One should not, I guess, sitting with one. I guess you can sit with a mother, sister, or father, brother, or son, grown up son. Okay. Learning the etiquette, so Prabhupada says, learning the etiquette of how to deal with women does not free one from sexual attraction. As specifically mentioned herewith, such attraction is possible even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. Generally, of course, one is not sexually attracted to his mother, sister, or daughter. But if one allows himself to sit very close to such a woman, one may be attracted. I remember always the one brahmachari was in Los Angeles temple, which is very big, very elaborate deity program. And he said, Prabhupada, I'm serving in the deity program, and in the morning, and there's so many the ladies are there. How should I deal with them? How should I talk with them? And Prabhupada said, loudly, yeah, because it is, this is natural physical tendency, psychological tendency, feminine tendency is to talk intimately with men. Women, men are attracted to women are attracted to men. Okay, so many details there. So then Mataji will talk a little bit softly and say, Prabhu, Prabhu, where's the paraphernalia for Gornatai? And so in her mild suave, the Brahmachari has to come closer to listen to her. And he can respond, what is that, Mataji? Ladies can do the same thing. Such practical advice from Prabhupada, so simple. And female body or male body, when you're dealing with the opposite sex, talk loudly. Yes. And and then that's the etiquette. It doesn't mean the sex desire has gone away, as Prabhupada's saying here. Yeah. But it's there, but now it's under control. And when we change our body, okay, then we'll get, you know, a different attachment. This is a psychological fact. Now, right away, there's something, a very, very wonderful project. Just go to database.io and punch in the search for psychology, psychological psychology. We could probably generate an entire little pamphlet on Krishna conscious psychology. Tremendous use. It may be said that one is liable to be attracted if he is not advanced in civilized life. However, as specifically mentioned, okay, here, vidvangsam apikarshati, even if one is highly advanced, materially or spiritually, he may be attracted by lusty desire. The object of attraction may even be one's mother, sister, or daughter. Therefore, one should be extremely careful in dealings with women. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one should be careful. No, extremely careful. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was most strict in dealings, especially after he accepted the sannyas order. Uh-huh. In his stories of I think it was one nice lady in India. I think it was Mula Prakriti Devi Dasi when she was leading her body in India, in Vrindavan. She went around with her typical, enthusiasm and potency and did interviews of people who knew Prabhupada. Now, of course, their memories and other things, may not be 100% accurate, but some good, consistent view of Prabhupada. Uh, so one older lady, she said that she was, a girl or something. And when A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Abhaychara Bhaktivedanta, um, when he was Abhaychara Aravinda Das Bhaktivedanta, when he was there as I guess my wedding was sannyasi, I guess. Okay, no, before he took sannyas, and she would attend lectures and so on that Prabhupada was giving. And she said after Prabhupada took sannyas, he became like very rigid and no ladies in his classes. And she was asking, he said, "All right, but you must sit in the back." Okay. So she would come and sit in the back and so on and attend Prabhupada's classes. So Prabhupada set an example the same way. You know, that being very that like Lord Chaitanya was most strict in his dealings, especially after he accepted sannyas order. Indeed, no woman could come near him to offer him respect. Again, one is warned herewith that one should be extremely careful in dealings with women. A brahmachari is forbidden even to see the wife of his spiritual master if she happens to be young. The wife of the spiritual master may sometimes take some service from a disciple of her husband, you know, okay, as she would from a son. But if the wife of the spiritual master is young, a brahmachari is forbidden to render service to her. I think we mentioned this before one time. Tamal Krishna Maharaj and devotees were talking to Prabhupada. I think it was in Mayapur. And they were talking about one member of parliament and how he was cooperating in different ways and how they should engage him. And Prabhupada asked, "Is he a young man?" The devotees kind of hesitated a little bit. And Prabhupada said, "Young man means 40, 50 years old." Young man means 40, 50. And maybe I think it was 40, 50. I mean, 30, 40 or something. So anyway, if the wife of the spiritual master is young, okay, then we should, brahmachari should not see her. Okay. I mean more like the Prabhupada's talking social contact here. Go and see so and so. Because specifically, I think it was when Lakshmi Moni asked Prabhupada about, associating with Jagadish, her husband after he took sannyas and letters. And Prabhupada said, yes, the former wife can attend lectures by her now sannyas husband. If there's a large group and she can sit in the group like that, of course, some distance and so on. So this is, of course, all this is very, very powerful medicine. This is, of course, the ninth canto. And we're working on our PowerPoint show to try and organize our dull intelligence No. Sri Krishna Bhavanamrita Sangha. Yad yad. Yada yada. No, no. Whatever it is. Yada yada hi dharma. No, no. Tad evatado janaha. Yada yada hi dharma. I can't remember what it is. Yam yam vapi. Got it. Yam yam. Yam yam vapi. Smaran bhavan. Chachati anti kalevaram. Tam tam eva te kuntaya. Sadata bhava bhavita. When you reach 73 years old, okay, you're really starting to pack your luggage like this. Yeah. As I said, sannyasa ashram is so nice, so wonderful. Ladies also can adopt it from their perspective. For men, it's a very nice facility because you're traveling so frequently. In the beginning, you do kuti chak, which allows you to get free from your social obligation, learn to live alone. In Bahudak, now you're traveling around, but you're visiting people who you know and adjusting your relationships, clearing those off. And then Pari Rajak, you take off and just go, depend on Krishna. Because you're confident now, he's there. There's no violent necessity. And you're traveling so much, you learn so many things. For example, if I'm in some place for one night, okay, then packing your luggage is a very small affair because you haven't unpacked. If you're there for 3 days, something more. But if you're there for a week, okay. But if you're there for maybe like one semester teaching and getting involved in the deity worship and everything else to keep your consciousness nice, packing is a big affair. What am I going to take with me? Prabhupada, when he would pack, he would, maybe somebody had given him different kurtas, and he would then lay them out and pack, a certain number. Usually, when I travel, I was traveling with two sannyas sets, and then a pair of yogi pants, a t-shirt, kurta, and a light and jacket. And that way everything fits in one. I got it right here. There we go. Okay. This is my my luggage. Yeah. I got it as a gift from Krishna. That's a whole story. And my little can fits inside. You can use this as a drum, You can use it as a plate. There you go. Tilak mirror. Yeah. You can use it as for washing, bathing, that kind of stuff. You can actually use it for mixing salad. Works great. What else we got? You can sit on it if it's a dirty place. You can use it as I'm using the other one, my local can as a table. So so sannyas dharma that everything fits into the can, everything fits in one bag, goes under the seat, so you haven't even got to fight for overhead space. And actually that's it's quite happy, very happy life. But this is it. So when we're leaving our body, it's a matter of packing. What memories do you want to take with you? What people do you want to take with you? Yeah. And these are and you refresh them. So yam yam vapi smaram bhavan. I'd like to take that with me, you know, next lifetime. So adjusting our intelligence here, PowerPoint is a very good means for me for adjusting our intelligence. So here's the our from last time we were together, and we were working on these verses and so on, with Ramachandra and Sagara. And then after that with Krishna, etc., we moved ahead. Okay. But we had this autobiography, and the whole summary of all Prabhupada's books, which is very nice, to be able to take Prabhupada's books with you. Take the Bhagavatam, the Gita, the Upanishad. Such a very wonderful. The library Prabhupada gave us is, again, it's a library, a basic library for 10,000 years. And Prabhupada's saying this will take you back home, back to Godhead. Then the whole Bhagavatam, the overview, and we're being now in Vaivasvata Manu, different Manus, Swayambhuva Manu and his daughters and sons, the other 13 Manus, and now detailing our Manu, which is very natural. The questions that developing and everything else, it's not there in other Puranas, apparently. Talking more with Radhika Ramandas. It's not there in other Puranas, and so systematic. So our Manu, and then of course that takes us to Kapila, everybody else. What do we got here? Yeah. Yeah. The dynasty of the sun, the dynasty of the moon. Yeah. Ramachandra rules the world. And now we're on 19 through 24. We're finishing off this canto. And now, if we're following, we'll be able to enter the 10th canto. Of course, each time we go through this, it's like a spiral. You know, we're becoming more and more purified. So we can enter into the 10th canto, maybe with just some, what do you call it? Uh, um, sattvic character, you know. But then we go on and we actually enter in actually with Dasya Ras. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm going to push F here. So here's where we are now. Okay. Dun, dun. Bhaktivedanta Studies, Mayapur Institute, 2021, February 14th through 19th. Srimad Bhagavatam 9:19 through 24, revised to 21:02:12. And I think you will have this, and I hope it's some use like that. Maybe you can use it. I'm very, for me, PowerPoint shows are very satisfying. My karma. It takes some time to put them together like this. I have a collection of pictures, and I try and build my collection of pictures. You know? And of course, Krishna is very beautiful. So this is where we're headed. Not this whole canto, these last verses, they're like arrows taking us to the 10th canto, where we will see the wonderful story of Draupadi Vastraharan. Yeah. And such an intense story. Yeah. Yes. Okay. And then Bved up there. This is a nice picture of Bved. Very long beard. Yeah. His whole life. Then down below, Krura, you know, how he was taking Krishna from Vrindavan. And then, of course, the center of everything, Gopal. I've heard the Prabhupada said the original, what was it? I got the name of the painters, Vrindavan Das or something. Yeah, Brajabasi. I think it was Brajabasi and Son were the painters. You probably have seen it. It's the same painting, but it's it's done by them. I've heard Prabhupada said this is the closest to what Krishna looks like. So I figured the artist got it. You know. And of course, it's very dangerous. A very dangerous person to look at if you want to try and find any stability in your life. It will mess up your stability. Okay, so then, Maharaj, can you see our next screen now?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, I guess it's going pretty fast. Okay. Okay, so chapter 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Chapter 19, looking at all of them today. King Yayati achieves liberation. So we can say that he's our ancestor. We have to, yeah. I was really thinking about that. Why are we concerned with all these dynasties? You know? Well, this is our dynasty. You know, and the ladies can identify with Devayayani, okay, the she goat, and we gentlemen can identify with Yayati, the he goat. Okay, and this is what happened to our ancestors. So in Bhagavatam, in ISKCON, you find so many things happening. I can just go through a list of names. Bhavananda, Jayatirtha, Hansaduda. You know, what else we got? You know, so many devotees. So many devotees. Gauranga Darshan. Yeah, and Govardhan Eco Village. Yeah. So we hear some scandalous activities that happened at Govardhan Eco Village. You know, and we're all aghast. Oh my God, these things have never happened before. But then we look at our ancestors, our tradition, and we see, no, it happened before. You know, they're going to happen again. Even when Krishna was personally present in Vrindavan, there were demons, and their roaring was so ferocious that it was causing the girls to have miscarriages.
Maharaj, sorry, Maharaj. Maharaj, the voice is not so clear, Maharaj.
Okay, is it better now?
Little, it should be improved.
I must maybe try some.
It's a slight improvement, Maharaj.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better, but sound is low now.
Yeah, that's the problem. Okay. Let me see. So which do you prefer, clear, low sound or loud, distorted sound?
It's better, Maharaj.
Okay, so we'll go this way and I'll try and talk louder. My problem is that my voice is, again, this is the last time I can do this, I'm trying to squeeze it through. Okay, so I got to buy more expensive headphone set. That was a little cheaper. Okay, so chapter 19, Yayati, who's my ancestor. Okay, maybe I was Yayati, maybe we are Yayati. This 19th chapter describes how Maharaj Yayati achieved liberation after he recounted the figurative story of the he-goat and the she-goat. Yeah. Our neighbor, when I was in Calcutta in Raghunathpur for 1 year, he had a goat with a long white beard. And he said his name was Rabindranath Chagul. If you speak Bengali, I guess you'll understand. Rabindranath Chagul is Tagore. Tagore is very famous. So Yayati in this chapter, he becomes disgusted. And this is a result of actually following Dharma, Artha, Karma Yoga. Because all of these people, we don't see anybody do anything pretty much basically adharmic. All these people in the modern world would be great, elevated heroes, the ladies and gentlemen. And so Yayati Maharaj is engaging in his not lascivious, lusty life, but he's doing it following certain principles. And because of that, you don't get absorbed into it. And so you can see what's happening from a little distance. And so naturally, you become detached. So by following this, he became disgusted with material happiness. And then he told a story of a he-goat and a she-goat to his wife, Devayani. And then he gave an explanation of it. And he and Devayani both obtained liberation. Of course, immediately this reminds us of Kapila and Devahuti. So several stories probably here for people, grihastas who've gone through the whole thing. And I know devotees. I left it very early. I became a vanaprastha at like 24 years old or something, 20 that. And then basically brahmachari, everything, sannyas. But other devotees I know who went through the whole thing with very nice, wife and family. And one devotee was told me, he said, my wife and our children have grown up. So I've made my $1 million, And he said, to do it, sometimes I was smoking a little bit, but I got free from the habit. And he said, but now what's going to happen? We're kind of looking at each other, and we said, now we're realizing, hey, we did that, and now let's take some time and think about what actually happened. So that's what, at the end of Grihastha Ashram, naturally, you did it properly, you think about it, okay, we were 70% successful. Well, that's quite a bit, 75%. And we learned enough, to go ahead now to Vanaprastha and do it properly. So that's, the story of, chapter 19 is really the story of Yayati and his renunciation, and the goat story. Chapter 20, the dynasty of Puru. This chapter describes the history of Puru. Who is Puru? Anybody know who Puru is? What is the relationship between Puru and Yayati? Nobody's answering.
Son of Yayati.
Son of Yayati.
You the youngest?
Who accepted
Youngest.
old age. Who accepted old age of Yayati, and later on, Yayati took the old age back, and he became the king.
Okay. Was he the oldest son or the youngest son?
Youngest son.
Yeah. Okay. So we're coming from Yayati, Puru, who served his father very nicely. We see this is another theme in the Bhagavatam. Swayambhuva, Manu, and Satarupa. Living together as husband and wife. Wife supporting her husband so he can be successful. And then, acting properly in terms of the elders in the family. in America, this has almost completely disappeared. There's almost no service, to older people. It's a totally youth culture. Yeah, yeah. So very difficult here. But here we see, Puru served his father, and then he got benediction. Chapter describes the history of Puru and his descendant. So it comes down to Dushmanta. Okay. So like the Maharaj, was the Maharaj, Krishna Kshetra Maharaj was talking about whenever anybody goes to the forest, it's very problematic. He was talking about the distinction. I think there were. I think there's. It's not. It's distinction. I think distinction is there. They both have their. They're both alive. The forest, but also it describes it outside of Dwarka. When Krishna was coming, there were agricultural lands, and there were, areas which were like in between the metropolis and the forest. But the forest was a very real place you went to for certain experiences. You see the president of the United States or Modi, going to the forest. So when you go there, well, so many times you got to be careful if you go to the forest because you encounter very, very beautiful, chaste, shy ladies. So he went to the ashram of Maharishi Kanva. I think he's mentioned someplace also, a little curious about who he is. And there was Shakuntala. So can somebody else, one of the ladies, what does Shakuntala look like? Any descriptions of her features or her, when you saw her? One of the ladies. This proves that boys are smarter than girls. No. Okay, anybody describe what Shakuntala was like? You got any remembrances of her? Of course, I ask questions I know the answers to. No, okay. I would remember it says that what impressed me was her effulgence was illuminating the entire ashram, like that. She was there in the ashram. Must have been a very beautiful place with nice gardens and things like that. Practical things going on. But she was there, and her effulgence was illuminating the entire ashram, her aura. So Maharaj was attracted, and then they agreed, were married, Gandharva rights, I guess. And then he left. Of course, later is the story of Bharata. And who can tell us the story of Bharata? Let me pick somebody here. I'll pick somebody. Okay, we'll go down the list here. Okay, Srinivas Gopal Das. Can you describe after Maharaj left? What happened?
Oh, I don't know, Maharaj.
Oh,
You cannot describe nicely.
okay. Somebody else. We'll give one more person here a chance. I'll give on the list here. Yugalapriti Devi Dasi. After Maharaj left the ashram, then what happened between him and his wife afterwards?
Sorry, Maharaj, I don't know.
Oh, okay. It is horrible. Okay. It is horrible. What school are you going to? Okay, Maharaj, what happened after he left the ashram between him and Shakuntala?
Maharaj, as far as I remember, she begot a son. Shakuntala begot a son.
Yes.
His name was Bharat.
Yes.
And he was very brave child. He could catch the tigers with bare hands. And later on, when she went to his palace, Maharaj Dushman's palace, claiming herself to be his wife, initially he refused, and later on he accepted her as his wife.
Why did he accept her?
I don't know, Maharaj.
She proved herself as his her wife. She
Yes,
proved
yes.
herself.
I don't know who this voice in the sky is, but it keeps causing a lot of problems. Or whatever. Kangsa, you are a fool, Kangsa. I guess we have to have that in ISKCON. We have to have the off stage announcer like that. Maharaj does. Okay. Oh, yeah. So yeah, the off stage voice announced that he was, that she was. I think it was because she was claiming this and that, and the the ministers and people, were kind of simple-minded. We want a queen who gets married in front of everybody, who has a child in front of everybody and grows up in front of everybody. We don't want some kind of unknown queen and heir to the throne showing up and claiming things. And so then we didn't accept them initially because of the influence of the ministers and the people. But then it's like Ram. Ram rejected Sita. But then when there was, the fire god and everything else, and okay, because the people. So it's amazing that the king has so much power, but very much involved with ordinary people. It's not unlimited power in that sense. Okay, so that's the story of Shakuntala and Bharata. 21, the dynasty of Bharata. This 21st chapter describes the dynasty of Maharaj Bharata. Kindabaji.
Maharaj, could I ask a question, if possible?
Yes, yes.
Just a question regarding this this union between Shakuntala and who was it?
Dushmanta.
Dushmanta. Sorry, Shakuntala and Dushmanta. So Shakuntala is the daughter of Vishwamitra. So she's nominally a Brahmin girl. I think Srinivas Gopal has his microphone on. So
Yes.
she's a Brahmin girl, but she's accepted the king.
She's actually what's it called? What's it called? Sutta. She's Pratiloma, no? Because her mother was an Apsara, right? Was she? Her mother was an Apsara. It was some one of these another one of these stories. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So I was thinking that because she's the daughter of Vishwamitra, she's sort of in a Brahmin's kind of category, and we just read a few days earlier with Devyani and Yayati, how the only reason Devyani approached King Yayati was because she had been cursed to not get a Brahmin husband.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be very rare or frowned upon for a Brahmin girl to go for a Kshatriya husband.
Yes.
So, is there some consideration around it happening on this occasion without any protests or anything?
Yeah. Again, your father must have been a lawyer. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. No. It's a very valid question. But maybe there's also some consideration that orphans raised in the ashrams of munis, can can accept any situation. Any chaste girl raised in the ashram of a muni and abandoned by her parents, can ask any kshatriya to accept her as a wife. Yeah. Of course, yeah. So I don't know, but maybe that's to consider. I was thinking one consideration here is her situation, that she's not like properly situated, there, and so she's a apad dharma. That's the only thing one consideration I might suggest. Okay. This is why there's so many chapters in the Bhagavatam in heaven. Okay. Dynasty born from Bharata, the son of Dushmanta. It also describes the glories of Rantidev, Ajalita, and others. So this stands out. In 19 is the story of the she-goat and he-goat. In 20 is the story of Shakuntala. In 21 is the story of Rantidev, so generous. And 22, then we go down to the descendants of Ajamita, Devodhasa, Jarasandha, who belonged to the Riksha dynasty, as well as Duryodhana and Arjuna. Okay. And these chapters, then I think this chapter is very, very short. Yeah, I remember I did this full thing of like, Vedabase.io, only purports, control minus, minus, minus. There's almost nothing in chapter 22, as I remember, except a couple of very tiny, one-line purports. And the only big report is 9:22:32. Because Bhakti Swarup Damodar is my sannyas guru and Sankirtan leader, and hopefully my friend eternally, big brother. Um, Shiksha. Then of course, when we come to that, I can tell a lot about Manipur, and probably devotes an entire purport, to have a nice purport for your state in the Bhagavatam, something that gives so much direction. In 23, the dynasty of the sons of Yayatu describes, okay, I mean, this is also, I think, a tiny one. There's nothing there, except children. 24, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, and many other wives. Okay, so again, the Kshatriya, so that no girl will be unprotected. And my daughters, my disciples, girls, I can see that in the modern world, this is a problem. Places like South America and so on, are, so many girls who are just nice people, but somehow or other they don't get married, and then oh my goodness, it's such a anxiety, and then they're being exploited by the society and have to work terrible jobs and to make enough money to live, and emotionally everything else, and so it's a very unfair situation, but we're getting what we deserve in our karma. So then a Kshatriya may have like, we should say 100 wives. Yeah, but it's not like what we're talking about. They're all protected and each deserve one child. Okay, so Kshatriya, take care of these things. Some orphans from the ashram. From the womb of Devaki, the Supreme Personality of Godhead came. This chapter ends by glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. So it's not going into intimate pastimes. Of course, even in Bhishma Dev, he's talking about the Ras Lila before he leaves his body. So there's something there, some indication is there, which can't be denied. But we're going gradually, and now if we get past the 9th canto, if we absorb the 9th canto, we'll be able to that degree, we'll be able to enter the 10th canto. And maybe we'll enter as Shantaras and just be able to appreciate, we'll be able to look into Vrindavan as blades of grass. Okay, we made it to Vrindavan. What are we? We're blades of grass. That's quite a position. Everything in Vrindavan is alive. Everything in Vrindavan is struggling, to help maintain the scene, everything else. Every blade of, one story is the Rasa Lila. And it's better than any basketball game, better than any American football game. Okay. These kung fu matches, whatever we got. Swinging, dancing, timing, and it's just so wonderful. Mercedes-Benz engines are amazing, the symmetry, the beauty, everything else of the Ras Lila. But everybody can see that Lalita is not in exactly the right position. And now Radharani is going to give Krishna's hand in the swing to Lalita to catch. But she's a little bit off position. She's going to, catch him, but she won't be able to support the grip. And when she steps back, and unless the grass pushes harder, and even the grass can see, oh my gosh, we can't push hard enough unless that one blade of grass does his extra work. So the entire Rasa Lila with 16,108 gopis and Krishna moving in fantastically beautiful arrangement comes down depending on that one blade of grass. Who is that blade of grass? Yeah, Srinivas Gopal Das. Okay, it all depends upon you. And I'm not kidding, this is it. So you want to be a blade of grass in Vrindavan? Woof. You want to go into the 10th canto? Maybe we want to be a little bit of dust on the one blade of grass in Vrindavan. Yeah. So that's the whole summary here. We're finishing off all the dynasties, and we're coming to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So any questions about this overview? This summary?
I can ask a question, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hello,
Can I ask a
Ananta
question?
Gaur. Ananta Gaur, yes.
Maharaj, we heard about the pastime of this Sakuntala in Kalidas has written that literature. So is it according to Puranas or it is just something coming from his mind, his
I think
imagination?
after this, we'll go through each chapter, with in detail. I sent you the files for the first 2 chapters already. So, and when we go through that, we'll come to that point. Prabhupada mentions it like that. Yeah. So you're thinking the same way as Prabhupada. Any other questions? Shakuntala. It's considered one of the greatest pieces of poetry in the world. Yeah. Wow. But of course, in the West, they don't know about it. Okay, so it's 5:20. Maybe we go ahead a little more here. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I have my companions here. This is Tom Brown. Okay. Everybody needs finger puppets. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Uttama Shlokaya Nama Arya Lakshana Shilabhataya Namo Prashikshitaba Upasita Lokaya Namo Saravaranaya Nikashanaya Namo Brahmanadevaya Mahapurushaya Maharajaya Namo Iti Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hari Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama 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 Hari Hari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The best education. Maharaj, what do you see?
It's a genealogical table.
What is the peacock's attitude towards this? What is he thinking?
I think I can't say, Maharaj.
I think he's shocked. It looks like he's a little, oh my God. Okay. Yeah, I had to borrow Nitai Gaur Sundar's Bhagavatam, and I scanned it onto my USB drive, and then I loaded it, edited it. But this is the descendants of Pururava, who was attracted by somebody while traveling in the forest. And you see I put a little red box around Pururava, who goes down to Ayu, and pretty much just does all the generations end up someplace. But it goes over then to Yayati. Yayati, and 4 other sons, little red box. And we come down here, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 descendants of Yayati. And one side goes to Yadu. Okay. And of course, we're concerned with the Yadu dynasty, which goes down on the way on the left to the Madhus, Madhu Vrishti. On the right, it goes to Kroshta on down, and we'll follow that line on the next page. Then back up, we come to Yadu, Turavasa, Druha, Anu, and Puru. Okay. And then Puru had to be separated. Of course, if you use an architectural bed printer, you can print these things all on one big sheet of paper. And it's so nice. We're doing Bhakti by Baba. We did what's it called? Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in the southern part. And one of the devotees, Gopal, he did the entire, structure of the thing. This can be divided into this can be divided in this. He did it all on one page. And it was so nice, to see the entire Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu laid out. And you say, well, that's there. Yeah, that's there. Okay. You can see where the emphasis was, where the breaks were. And such an essential thing. It should be done as a big monument, stone monument, on the wall. So this is what's happening. Pururava, Yayati, then it breaks into Puru and Yadu. Okay. I guess this is all the Soma Vangsa. Okay. Can you see our next slide?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Now the birds are talking about it. Okay. So we were continuing from the side of Yayati, and we got Satvata. And then from him comes two principal lines. One is Vrishni. So we all know that Krishna is a part of the Vrishni, Andak, and whatever dynasties, Sattvatas. But maybe, I guess that's the Vrishni we're talking about, but he comes down to another Vrishni. And then from him we see Svapalka, who was the father of Akura, who's mentioned in the Krishna book. But another son was Chitra Rata, and that comes on down to Ritika, Surasena, Vasudev, Krishna, and Balaram. And we consider Vasudev and Kunti are brother and sister. So 9 other sons are mentioned, 4 other daughters are mentioned, which is 15 children. Maybe probably the others who weren't so prominent, like Surasena. Okay, then going back up again, there's Vrishni and the Andak. Okay, now that's why they're related. And then for them come Kukura, which sounds like a dog. Kukur. 7 generations, and it goes on down then to Ahuk. Ahuk and Ahuki. Okay. Ahuk was the father of Devaka and Ugrasena. Oh, so Ugrasena and Devaka are brothers. I didn't know that. Okay. So I think somehow or other, Devaki, Maharaj Ugrasena didn't have any daughters or something. So Maharaj Devaka, I can't remember the story exactly. So he gave somehow or other Devaki was raised up as the daughter of the opposite person. So she got this name Devaki, although I think she's maybe daughter of Ugrasena or something. So she was Kamsa's sister in this sense. Okay. So let's look at the Purus then. Okay. Genealogical table, the Purus. I forgot. Let's go back. I have to go back up here. Short-term memory. Pururava Yayati. He was the father of Yadu and Puru. Okay. And coming down from Puru, we go through 11 generations. We come to Rantidev. Now we're in our current stories. And he goes down into Dushmanta and Bharata. And Bharata had no son exactly, so he got Bharadwaja, who was actually a child of somebody else. Then we go on down, and we can see over here Manu, and we come to Rantidev, a little goat next to him there. Okay. Other side goes on down to Ajameda, okay, and that leads to Nila, who then breaks us all the way down to Drupada and Ashvatthama. And Ashvatthama is the son of Kripa and Kripi, like that. It's interesting. And other people we might know, Somaka, Drupada, Draupadi, Drishtadyumna, and Drishtaketu. Back up again to Ajameda. We go to the Kurus. Okay, to Kuru, the Kuru dynasty. And that comes right down, you can see, to Jarasandha. So they're all related. Jarasandha, whose son was Sahadev, who took over after his father was annihilated. Then we go back over to Janu, okay, to Maharaj Santanu, okay, and to Vichitravirya, who couldn't have any children. So then, by his mother's wish, Vyasadeva became the father of Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. And Dhritarashtra we know, Pandu we know, like that. Yeah. And before that, they're all contemporaries. Going back up to Santanu, we can come over to Bahika, and Somadatta, Burishava, Salya. These are all in the Mahabharata war, like that. The Kula Sahadaya Mahabharata war. So it's nice, placing people like this. This is reality. Certain people, you cannot get certain species of life cannot combine. So even at this biological level. What happens if the father is a horse and the mother is a donkey? What is the child?
Mule.
Yeah, a little louder.
Mule.
Yes. And what happens if so can you have children from a mule?
No.
No. It's very interesting. So our Western world developed as a whole history that physics became the normative science, and everything else wasn't really a science unless you could show it in terms of physics. Chemistry has to go back to the atoms and molecules. Biology has to go back to the chemicals, this kind of stuff. Yeah. And so we see there's very strict laws, even in these genealogical levels, and they allow us to sort things out. And probably maybe, by the time you're 75 years old, you begin to realize, a lot of things. And I can really see that I'm receiving a lot of karma from my previous generations. As I understand it, so on my mother's side and father's side too, so both sides, they were both explorers. They were both investigators, going out, traveling, trying new things. And that's why I understand now why I never developed a big organization like other people, because I like to travel with a small group of intelligent people. It's what you call creative, innovative. What's the word? Improvisational people. That's what I feel natural with a few people like that who can take care of themselves, who can improvise and investigate new things. I'm not a person to do maintenance so much, so somebody else has to take that over. So we find our place in the movement. We find our chart, our genealogy. Prabhupada says in the future, devotees will announce themselves. Okay, I'm a descendant of this ISKCON devotees from Germany, 5 generations ago. Yeah, my great grandfather was a Prabhupada disciple. His name was so and so. Prabhupada said that one time. Yeah, then you have karma. Yeah. So any questions about the genealogical charts here? Okay, everybody's satisfied with their karma. Okay, so let us take a little break. It's 5:35. So according to our tradition, I guess what we take 10 minutes, 15 minutes? Maharaj, how many minute breaks should we take?
Maharaj, usually we take 10 minutes break.
Okay, so 5:45 my time here in the polar regions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So, Maharaj, are you there? Hello? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
He's there, Maharaj. He's there.
Okay. Repeat after me. Tanadapi sunichena.
Chena
Taroriva sahishnuna.
Taroriba Shaishuna
Amanina Amanadena
Vaishnuna
Amanina manadina
Kirtaniya Sadahari.
Kirtaniya Sadahari.
So on Srila Prabhupada's rooms, you may have seen this in Radha Damodar, his dining room next to the door was this Kirtaniya Sadahari. He had written on the wall next to the door there. And we did a database, which mantras, which mantras do you need? Panchatattva mantra, Hare Krishna mantra. And I would say next is this mantra, because Lord Chaitanya is saying you can have complete success by chanting this mantra. I've heard, but some places says that I was trying to find it, but I didn't have time. That Lord Chaitanya said one should string this, using the string of the holy names, one should make a necklace, a garland, out of this mantra, Trinada Pisanichina, and wear it around your neck. They say, Prabhupada told Guru Kripa Maharaj, you can chant you can chant Hare Krishna in the mood of the Shikshastaka. But specifically, one place I read, Prabhupada says in Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, we can chant in that mood. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so we're chanting with a bhava, with an attitude, a perspective, not just with our lips, not just with our mind, but with our attitude, our perspective. And then it's next door to be chanting, with our soul. So this is very, very nice words. Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila, chapter 20, with the verse number. And then that nice thing, I looked up Trinada P, did a search on that, and it comes up many times. So again, another nice project to see how Prabhupada uses this. And of course, it's in Upadeshamrita, our basic book. Another verse which has become very, very prominent, you can see it here, 1047:63. Very, very, from my particular consciousness, it's very, very nice. And this is Uddhava, after delivering the message to the gopis and so many things, and then glorifying the gopis. Then he says this one verse. So please repeat. Vande Nanda Brajastrinam.
Vande Nanda Vrajastrinam
Padarenum Abhikshnasaha.
Padarenum Abhikshnashaha
Yasham Hari Kato Gitam.
Yasam Hari Kathodgitam
Punati Bhuvanatrayam.
Punati Bhuvanatrayam.
So Sanskrit, very simple. I offer my respects to the ladies of Nanda Maharaj's village, Padarenum. I offer my respects to the dust of the feet of the ladies of Nanda Maharaj's village, Abhikshnasaha, perpetually. Yasham Hari Kata Udgitam, their loud chanting of the glories of Hari, Punati, purifies, Bhuvanatrayam. I repeatedly offer my respects to the dust from the feet of the women of Nanda Maharaj's cowherd village. When these gopis loudly chant the glories of Sri Krishna, the vibration purifies the three worlds. Sri Uddhava, having described the glories of the gopis in the previous verses, now directly offers his obeisances to them. According to the Sri Vaishnava Toshani, Sri Uddhava did not offer such respects even to Lord Krishna's queens in Dwarka. So we're going, I don't know, it's like this messenger mood of Uddhava. And this is his conclusion. Vande Nanda Brajastriyam Padarenum Abhikshnaseha Yasham Hari Kato Gita Punati Bhuvanatrayam. Mohara Bhuva Swa, the earth, the sky, and the heaven. As if we're chanting with attention, not just with our mouth, our mind is involved, then we're making the sound on the gross atmosphere, and we're also making it on the psychological atmosphere. Wherever you are, I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So it's a conception that many people have on the psychological level. It's an individual conception that they have according to their subtle body, which is made of concepts and thoughts, organized by different concepts. And the supersoul, the Paramatma, is also maintaining this idea, of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And so if we're chanting in that aspect, then of course people will think that, Some people are growling and grumbling about Murfreesboro. They're wondering where the best bars and chicken places are to eat. But here we are, devotees, and we're chanting the glories of Sri Hari, and it's purifying the second world. And I guess that's more the prana world, which Prabhupada says one time I'm talking into the microphone, and it's going around the world. I think he said 6 times in a second. And I calculated that, the circumference of the world, and it was the speed of light. Exactly. So that's what the middle world, the middle kingdom, the sky where electricity flies and the Gandharvas live and the Apsaras live. Then we go Indraloka, Maharloka, Brahmaloka, and maybe Goloka. So the gopis are chanting with their lips, the gopis are chanting with their minds, the gopis are chanting with their intelligence, meaning. So very rich, subtle meanings. And by that, they purify the 3 worlds. Okay. So any comments or questions about the gopis? Okay. So then we can go ahead here on your mercy. How do I do this? Control, there we go, yeah. Okay. Click on the Word file. And what do we have here? Okay. So this is chapter 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
And so what we highlighted here, is this big enough? A little bigger would be good?
Yeah, it's visible, Maharaj.
Okay. If you make it too big, it's hard to read because then your mind will start taking each word at a time. You won't be able to read sentences. Yeah. Very interesting, the size of the type. This 19th chapter describes how Maharaj Jayati achieved liberation after recounting the figurative story of the he-goat and the she-goat. Okay. And so, of course, we said this very much reminds us of the story of Puranjana, much more complicated story. So we have so many nice stories to tell people. I saw one thing recently, one magician, kind of famous magician, and he was there with George Bush, right, with the president of the United States of America. It was some kind of like, dinner party and stuff. And after dinner, he was sitting there. They were all dressed up, and this Secretary of State and foreign dignitaries were watching this magician. And actually, I did some magic before, and I saw what he did, how he changed the cards like that. But it was a very amazing trick, and stuff. And the President of the United States of America was like laughing and shocked. Oh my goodness, yeah, right in front of my eyes. So yeah, we may be able to tell stories to the president of our country sometime. So we should know the story of Puranjana. We should know the story of the he-goat and the she-goat. Okay. So there's the Sikhuda Goswami said, O Maharaj Parikshit, Yayati was very much attached to women. In due course of time, however, when disgusted with sexual enjoyment and its bad effects, he renounced his way of life and narrated the following story. Let me make this point here, tell it in modern context. So 2 through 12, and up here is the goat story. Okay. My dearly beloved wife, daughter of Shukracharya, in this world there was someone exactly like me. Please listen as I narrate the history of his life. So coming down, then Prabhupada's talking about this is the beginning of the Vanaprastha life. The Vanaprasthas who have retired from family life generally lament about their past family life. So maybe some devotees here, like I was mentioning before, I fell into smoking for a year, and my wife were doing this, and I wasn't chatting all my rounds, and okay now, but I can calculate how many I'm behind, and I'm going to catch them up now. You know, yeah. So very natural to lament our life before Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is saying we should retire as soon as possible, as soon as possible. Of course, our family, from a materialistic point of view, will want us to stay as long as possible. Buy false teeth, dye our hair, yeah, get a very comfortable, air-conditioned or heated house with servants. No, we're aimed towards the exact opposite. All the philosophers say, you do your business and household life, you get your education, yeah, husband and wife, and then wife wants her husband to get out as soon as possible, so he can go ahead and take them back home, back to Godhead. Retire as soon as possible from the darkest well, the darkest well. Yatvatma patam griha andakupam. Okay. And so Prabhupada is saying that this should happen at the end of his 50th year. By the 50th year, the energy in the body is finished. It's even Prabhupada saying that the physical energy is finished by the time you reach 30. And by the time you reach 50, then the mental energy is finished. You can't handle so many memories, thoughts, ideas, concepts. You take physical energy. He said you can push it maybe to 55. I was remembering that. So then we see that there's so many retirement communities, senior outing clubs, the Sierra Club, and they buy. It's a big market in America for people to buy like motorhomes and the Airstream trailers. Airstream is the Cadillac of trailers, and they're nice. They had a small one, which was for going to the beach with your surfboard. And boy, if you wanted to be the world's most opulent sannyasi, this thing was beautiful. It was, probably 3 big paces long and had air conditioning, kitchen. They had the whole back opened up. It was just, sannyasi's dream of paradise. Yeah. So they're there. It's Manapras. You go traveling, visiting places, visiting your children, and there are different clubs, and we see that it's a very natural stage in life. And Prabhupada encouraged people then to get their home in Mayapur and Vrindavan. Maybe you're still visiting your family in the West, you got this and that, but you start, make a place, some holy place where you can have good association. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So when you become accustomed to forest life, living in a temple like that, then you can go for full sannyas life. So Vanaprastha is a very natural stage. We have to encourage this, and we have to follow it ourselves. Okay. So nyasa, down below here we have this nyasa, means renunciation. Like that. So in Vanaprastha, one renounces gross connection between husband and wife. But in sannyas, one even gives up the subtle connection of joking and talking and emotional support, these kind of things. Nyasa and sannyasa. One should very much be ashamed of remaining a householder and not promoting oneself to the higher stages, namely Vanaprastha and sannyas. Okay, but we all should be ashamed for being in the material world. We should be ashamed of the thoughts we have. So maybe somebody is that they're just not going to make it in this lifetime. It's just their karma is such and everything else, but they can maintain Vanaprastha, so don't discourage them. You can see them, be careful before you be pushing people to make advancement, make sure that they're not going to fall down because of your effort like that. If all they can do is maintain what they're doing, then don't preach for them to take something which is impossible and they fall down. Okay, so the goat was wandering in the forest, satisfying his senses, his senses. And he's describing the nature of man and woman, goose and gander, mare and stallion. Then Prabhupada makes a very, very strong statement, which I'm sure all of you noticed. Without being cared for by a man, a woman cannot be happy. And of course, this goes so much against our modern feminist atmosphere. Traveling all over the world, we're seeing it's very prominent. And it's an expected feature of Kali Yuga. Kings will be overcome by robbers. Unmarried girls will become mothers, and women will conquer men. This is always what happens in the third age. Like that. Unless you're a Hare Krishna devotee, you can live in such a yuga. But it's natural, and so in some ways, okay, we promote this. Ladies who are being exploited like anything, left and right, they should form, unions so they can get decent wages, so they can make money properly, so they can, take care of their children properly. So we encourage these things within proper proportion, but then try to communicate to people. Then okay, but if you can go up, there's something better. Find some man to take care of you. Maybe it's going to be your temple president. Temple president has to understand, well, he should be married. Okay. Sri Prabhupada also had all GBC secretaries were married people in the beginning. Should be. So then, take shelter of this nice couple and the nice lady. She's, acting like you're the mother to all these people, making sure all the girls are taken care of properly. And everybody very happy, very productive, and can cultivate Krishna consciousness. And then these things become very small. You can take care of them with almost no effort whatsoever. You don't even have to think about it. But a very strong statement. Without being cared for by a man, a woman cannot be happy. Of course, we can all be taken care of by Krishna. Okay. Yeah. And this is the duty of the responsible social people. Daivi Varna Ashram is to make sure that the ladies are protected. In Peru, I was very happy and I was encouraging my disciples and ladies. They were all like grandmothers, I have like 3 generation disciples, mother, daughter, and granddaughter. What's her name? Purnamasi, Tarangakshi, and Rukmini. And they're all, you can see 3 generations. And very, very nice ladies, nice family, But they started the Purnamasi club, the older ladies, and they get together, have some nice prasad, and have kirtan and everything else. And it was very encouraging. They had something very serious to offer, with society. The Purnamasi club, I think it should become a more extended thing in ISKCON, understanding. Okay, so that's the main thing. Give her to some man who's going to be a protector rather than an exploiter. And this is a very natural material tendency. Bhoktaram Yagatapa Slamyam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarva Dehinam. I'm not the proprietor of this woman. I'm not the enjoyer of this woman, but I am her best friend. This deer, this doe. So the third one is a very, very natural tendency. And when we dovetail it with Krishna consciousness, it's okay. Arjuna wanted to protect Draupadi. He wanted to protect his big brother. So when those are connected to Krishna, and Krishna wanted this, and he could use those things very naturally. He could remember Karna's, Duryodhana's mistreatment of Draupadi and use that in Krishna's service to drive him on when he was tired to fight. Okay. So Devayayani was very, very unhappy because she had nobody to protect her. The she-goat. So the lusty he-goat dug up the earth with great endeavor, with hard work, and this is what a man has to do, with impetus from his wife and children, to maintain an apartment, nice apartment, good income, children, friends, becoming entangled in the material world. Okay. When the she-goat, who had very nice hips, okay, we're all the 9th canto here, the actual word you may have noticed is sushroni. Sushroni, nice hips. And Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-27, when Lord Shiva is addressing Parvati, after she cursed Chitraketu, he says, my dear wife with very beautiful behind, very beautiful fanny. Yes. So, I think at this level, what we're talking about is that this is a subtle form of preaching. If you're in a female body, and so all somebody appreciates about you is your buttocks. It's ridiculous, you know. You know, here I am in society, and the only appreciation I'm getting is because I have a nice rear end. You know, this is ridiculous. Yeah. But that's why society goes on. You know, the hips of women are such a fantastic part of all social reality. You know, Sushroni. So maybe he's also, subtly, communicating to Devayayani, hey, is that all you are? You know, when the she-goat, who had very nice hips, got out of the well and saw the very handsome he-goat, she desired to accept him as her husband. When she did so, many other she-goats also desired him as her husband because he had very beautiful bodily structure and a nice mustache and beard and was very expert in discharging the semen. Okay, so, so much of life is based upon this. I went to a small market. In America, they have these drugstores. You have everything, like, I went in there one time, I was buying something. And I was just amazed. This is some, been a devotee for quite some time. First time I noticed this, there was an entire row of different kinds of lipstick, like maybe like 20 feet, 6 meters from my ankles to my shoulders of different kinds of lipstick. Sometimes in lectures, I ask the ladies, how many of you wear makeup? And they all, it's natural, they raise their hands, Otherwise, you have no eyebrows sometimes. Very ladies have very, very, not very strong eyebrows. You look kind of like a ghost or something. So you've got to paint on some eyebrows, okay? Then you turn to the men and ask them how many of them wear makeup. Immediately, the contrast is so shocking, Maybe one of the guys will, proudly, gay and proud will raise his hand or something, Yeah. But you can see that there's this, so much of society comes from, nice mustaches, nice rear ends, and expert in discharging the semina. Expert means nice apartment, nice music, nice food, nice dress, nice words, nice stories, nice history. Having defeated the enemy rivals, okay, now we can discharge semina expertly. Yeah. So she was attracted by this. But not so much that she was losing her intelligence. She kept her dignity to some degree. She was manipulating. We heard about this last week. She was manipulating her father, manipulating her husband. She's so cruel. She was enjoying family life, getting children, everything else, and she made what it was, Sarmista, sit there and look at her eating a nice meal and not being able to eat. Very cruel. Girls can be very cruel. Very intelligent. Materialists are certainly very much attracted by sexual intercourse. Yan maitunadi grihamedi sukham hitucham. How many times does Prabhupada quote this? I'm going to ask all you Bhakti Vedantas here. See, if you don't ask questions, I'll ask questions. Okay. Sitala Madhavi Devi Dasi. Where is this quotation from? Yan maitunadi grihamedi sukham hitucham.
Maharaj, from Prahlad Maharaja's 7th canto.
Okay, I was thinking it actually was, what's his name? Shabde to his sons. Yeah. Okay, but now you say it, you're right. Yeah. And of course, it's a very, very repeated citation. Yan maitunadi grihamedi sukham hitucham. It's a very, very insignificant satisfaction, but if we don't have any higher taste, it becomes so big. Chant Hare Krishna and clap your hands one time, and so many big things will appear, so small. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My God. Okay. It is said that if goats meant for slaughter get the opportunity to enjoy sex before being killed, they will take it. And this is the material world, the greatest happiness. material happiness. Of course, it's in the Muladhara chakra. We're different chakras in our Brahmarandra, Brahmaloka, pineal gland. What else we got? Now the throat, heart, solar plexus, stomach, and then the Muladhara chakra, which is related to three things, none of which you can do in public. Urinating, defecating, and copulating. It's amazing. These very people's consciousness. None of these things are allowed to be carried on usually in public. In the different cultures, they don't want to talk about their stomach. Swiss people don't like to talk about stomach. German people will talk about it and slap their belly and say, "Ah, good essen, ah." Well, Swiss people will cover their eyes. Oh my God. They don't like to talk about anything below the diaphragm. So other people don't like to talk about anything. Carl Jung didn't like to go below the throat. He was on this level, and he thought everything above this was spiritual. Interesting. Kundalini Yoga, we had to do a lecture about.
Charging, I think.
You're gonna pretty. One time we did a lecture on Kundalini Yoga, and right when we were doing it, in the purport for the class in the morning, Prabhupada was talking about Kundalini Yoga. Okay. So I just followed Prabhupada's lead. It was Carl Jung gave a whole series of lectures on Kundalini Yoga. And they're just fantastic as a devotee to read them and understand these things that you need that help. Ah, yes. And I could see his consciousness, and he was up to here. Something's going on down below, 5%, 10%, 50%, 40%. And then that's where our consciousness tends to be. Okay. So again, it's a very insignificant pleasure if you have some higher pleasure. But if you're a goat absorbed in your Muladhara chakra, then even if you're going to, it's a cost of death. Many people, great men, point this out in world classical literature. There's so many people, even though it costs them their life, their reputation, everything else, they'll risk it all for expert sexual gratification. Tapo devyam putukayena satvam sudyadyasma brahma sukam hituch sukam tvanantam. Now this is Shabdim, no? Human life is meant for self-realization. Why struggle for that which is available to the hogs and dogs? So very nice purports. A very, very nice story. When you can sing it. I shall now sing you a song. Once upon a time, there was a she-goat and a he-goat. Okay, the guitar. Who had a very nice mustache. Such a very nice little PowerPoint show. And from the PowerPoint show, you can make it into a very nice short movie, with the feeling. But what happens? He tells her all this. Okay. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, Srila Prabhupada stresses again and again, it must be a basic fact. If all the guys are rascals, how do you do it? You accept Krishna as your husband, the son, the deity. So again and again, the girls should be cared for in their childhood by their father, their daddy, by their Prabhu, in their married life, and by their grown-up son. And of course, it's so natural for a mother to be so proud of her big boy and growing up and everything else. And then, in a positive sense, taking care of her daughter-in-law, giving her guidance, through all these difficult programs. And then everything the four principles become easy to follow, and you can chant your rounds nicely. Okay, being very sorry. So the he-goat was subservient. Okay. Oh yeah. So he tells the whole story. He describes this whole story, which we heard in the last part, about he was messing around with other she-goats, and she went home and complained to her daddy, and then he cut off his testicles, and he reconnected them. And, it's quite an exciting story. Okay. Yeah. So, who is the best of all yogis? 647. Let's all chant together with our microphones closed, with our eyes closed. Yoginam api sarvesham magaten antaratmanam Shraddhavam bhajate yomam sameyu tatamo mataha. This is the conclusion of the yoga chapter. You can point that out to the yogis. Yeah. It's the conclusion. And it had, these words are Shraddha, Bhaja. The Mayavadi yogis, they hate this verse. Shraddha, Bhaja. Yeah. In chapter 7, then he starts to explain. The best yogi is he who fixes his mind upon me. So chapter 7, then he starts to describe who he is and what to meditate on. Okay. My dear wife, when the he-goat had his testicles restored, he enjoyed the she-goats he had gotten out of the well for many years, but even now he has not been fully satisfied. Panch Ashurdvam Vanavrajet is the actual Sanskrit. 5, at 50 years, one should go to the forest. Go to the forest. In modern world, Prabhupada says means take, get the big house to your children. Go through and the lady can go through and have the entire master bedroom and the master bath completely, remodeled, cleaned, new carpeting, clean the walls, everything else. And then when her son brings home a very nice daughter-in-law, she can tell her, okay, I've been the lady of this house for 20 years, and now you're the lady of this house. My husband and I are taking over my son's room upstairs. That's our room. Whenever we want to come and visit you, if you let us keep some things there. And we'll be traveling and visiting other families. But now you're the lady of the house, and I'm here to help you. Don't be afraid. Okay. So very, very nice process. Don't become attached. Varnashram is the highest material attachment. Yeah. But use it for Krishna. Okay, now he glorifies her not from having a beautiful rear end, but having beautiful eyebrows. And that's the end of the analogy. Okay. And he said, this is you and me. So maybe he got the message across. She didn't become angry at him for telling the story. Unless one is extremely advanced in spiritual consciousness, household life is nothing but a dark well in which one commits suicide. At least after one's 50th year, okay, should give up house life and go to the forest, ISKCON Brahmachari Ashram. A person who is lusty, Prabhupada says, cannot satisfy his mind even if he has enough of everything. This is the translation. Grains, barley, gold, animals, women. Gandhi said, I've heard they say, Gandhi said, there's enough in this world for every man's needs. Enough rice, barley, oatmeal, I like oatmeal, gold, animals, automobiles, and women. But for everybody's needs, okay? But he said, but it's not enough for one man's greed. Nero was a very famous Roman emperor, but he had incredible, use of the state funds for building things. And when finally he was chased out and people looked at what his palace was like, they were just, even the Romans were shocked at what he'd done in terms of gardens and patios and all these things for different kinds of enjoyment. They turned it into a state facility and the whole state was enjoying it. But still he wasn't satisfied. So we can never satisfy lust. You have to just let it go and go to the higher satisfaction. Okay.
Maharaj, one small doubt. Sorry, Maharaj, for disturbing. That 50 years after that, one will get suicide. One will suicide himself. I didn't get that, Maharaj.
Talking about suicide.
Just about.
Here? Oh no, yeah. That if you stay in a Hasta ashram, then you're killing yourself. You're killing your spiritual life. You're killing your soul.
Okay, Maharaj.
Okay. So the mind is surrounded by the senses and attached to them. You can have a satisfied mind only where in Krishna consciousness. And you can, very simple, very practical. When I'm cooking for myself and thinking, oh, I'd like this, I'd like that. Yeah, it's always going to be problematic. But if I control my mind and think, no, what does Krishna want? What does Krishna want? And Krishna is so kind, he reciprocates. He's satisfied with our offering. He likes it. We know what he likes. You know, my Nrsingadev, my Istadevata, Lord Nrsingadev, he likes macaroni and tomato sauce. He's not like Radha and Krishna. He's more like a working guy. He likes more like working man's food and stuff, you know. And I detach it from my belly and stuff and look at him, and yeah, he does appear. He's got his own character. He's a Vaikuntha Devata, you know. Yeah. Okay. But he likes to hear Krishna book. Okay. Yeah. Bhakti Param Bhagavati Parilambam Kamam. Okay. Whatever. Only in Krishna consciousness can we be satisfied. So now he's explaining the whole story. And if we go on dissatisfying them, thinking, oh, I'll calm this desire, these desires are agitating me, they're burning me up, so I'll gratify it and it goes away. Yeah, but then it comes back stronger. These are very simple facts which are known by Socrates, Confucius, Shakespeare, what else? Kalidas, Chanika Pandit, Hitopadesh. Very simple things, but hearing them all again and using them in Krishna's service. Yes, gratifying the senses does stop the lust and the pain we're experiencing, you know, but it comes back worse. You know. Okay. Yeah. And when we're not envious of other people's possessions and don't desire ill fortune for anybody else, the whole world is a happy place. Yeah. Mark Twain said, if you're completely honest, you don't have to remember anything. So if you're not conspiring against anybody, you know, then you can see everybody with an open face, look at them, you know, the tiger, hello tiger. If you want to eat my body, if you're hungry, okay, you know, yeah. Tiger may apologize, well, please forgive me, I'll kill you quickly, you know, or whatever. So Prabhupada quotes Prabodhananda Saraswati. Who is the nephew of Prabodhananda Saraswati? Yeah. Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Who's his brother?
Venkata
Bhatta, South India. So I like very, very much Vrindavan Da Mahimamrita, the Kusha Krata's translation. It's so wonderful, you know, like 18 shatakas or something. Who is he in Krishna Lila? Tungavidya. When you're looking at Radha Madhava on our extreme left, Krishna's extreme right is Tunga Vidya, the apex of knowledge. So she has more. Huh?
Who is Tunga Vidya Maharaj?
Tunga Vidya, when you're looking at Radha Madhava, is on our left.
Yeah, that is okay. Is that Prabodhanand Saraswati?
Yes, Prabodhananda Saraswati and Krishna Lila is Tunga Vidya.
Oh, okay.
And so it's very different. If you're going to be following Lalita, you're going to be in a different humor than Tunga Vidya. If Krishna shows up late for Radharani's birthday party by 15 minutes, you know, Lalita is all over him. She's like, there's no mercy, you know. Yeah. But Tunga Vidya will come back and say, come on, Lalita, give him a chance. Maybe he had a good explanation. Yeah. So she takes Krishna's side sometimes, other things like that. So I see that Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati have no objection to Prabodhananda Saraswati, no lack of respect, anything else, great appreciation. But looking at it, maybe our Bhakti Vedanta level here, Bhakti Sarvabhauma, they don't quote him so much, and maybe because, you know, we're following Lalita. Okay. So, but he says, Vishvam Purnam Sukhayate. When one becomes Krishna conscious by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, for him the entire world appears happy. Brahmabhuta. As long as one lives in the material world, actions or reactions will continue. But when one is unaffected by such material actions or reactions, he is considered to be free from the danger of being victimized by material desires. Let it come, let it go. Let the cold weather, everything happen. My body is reacting to the cold weather here. Like I'm saying, the roads are covered with ice outside. I can only the trailer motorhome, old mobile home where I am. It's pretty big, but only the room I'm in is actually heated. I have a little electric heater. So when I go out to cook in the kitchen area, I have to put on some house shoes and a big coat and and the warm water. But it's okay. I feel like a sannyasi. Okay, feel like a sannyasi. And it's a fact. I feel happy. And the grihastas are very impressed. Okay, Maharaj doesn't put a strain on us to put a heater in for the whole little house place, kind of thing. And so he must have something higher. What does he have? Yeah. So when we so let everything react naturally. Go through Varna Ashram naturally, and you'll see your body and mind they take care of stuff without too much effort. You haven't got to make any plans so much. And especially our social dealings, just react to people naturally. Family members, you talk about the family in a civilized fashion, who got married, who died, who's sick, who's happy. Okay, just reacting to it, but you're always adding a broader perspective, a higher perspective. And you're happy because you want everybody to become happy, no matter what level they're in. You even want the snakes to become happy. So he goes on to talking about this and saying, even when we're old, even when one is invalid, because of old age, the desires for sense gratification never cease. So who has a story about this? Who can tell us a story about that they've experienced in common life? Let me pick a name out here. Okay. Ananga Mohini Devi Dasi. Do you know any stories you've seen where old people are still attached to sense gratification?
What personal stories?
Yeah, you must have seen this. Amazing stories of somebody old age still.
Sorry, Maharaj, do you mean personal stories or from Bhagavatam?
Was it Maharaj Ashok or something? That story, right? Yeah, famous story. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Say, anybody else who has a story here? I know some really amazing ones of people who were
Ajamil Maharaj.
Ajamil, but I mean from your own life, from personal experience. Your aunt, your great aunt, grandmother, some other lady.
Maharaj, we hear a story from Srila Prabhupada.
What was Prabhupada's story?
Yeah, I think the minister asked his king, when will the lust go away?
Yeah.
So the king said, the minister said, okay, you come with your young daughter and let me introduce you to an old invalid man. So this man was so old, he was hardly able to open his eyelids. Eyelids were so heavy for him. And when king entered, he could not properly offer his respects. But when king's daughter entered, his eyes were lit up with joy. And he not only opened his eyes, but he turned his neck to have full darshan of Mataji.
That's the story of Birbal, no? Birbal, and I forgot who it was.
Yeah, Akbar and Birbal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says when you go in, the guy was dying. He said when you walk in with your daughter, see where the man's eyes go. Yeah. So many practical stories about this. I have one which is just shocking, amazing. Prabhupada's talking about about 80-year-old people. They still go to nightclubs, and so on, to try and put these things on. So such a penetrating story, this goat kata. Okay, maybe we'll finish this chapter today. And then, of course, there's a story about we quoting today that even a very intelligent, educated person is sitting on the sofa with the opposite sex will be agitated with sex desire. Therefore, now Yayati gives a conclusion. I shall now give up all these desires and meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Did Bhishmadev, what did Bhishmadev say in terms of this? Yeah. Very, very beautiful final prayers by Bhishmadev. Let my mind, which has been strewn over so many subject matters, now focus on Shri Krishna. So he's a nice devotee, but probably saying the same thing is we don't forget basically who we are, what we're trying to do. You always remember why I'm arguing over this money, why I'm trying to like get a cheaper price from this person, why I'm stealing a pair of pants rather than paying for them. Yeah, yeah, for Krishna. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, so at the time of death, the sannyas is meant for this. And you start becoming like, you start appearing like an idiot or something. Children are not very much in tuned in with the situation. So when you go to this point in sannyas, like I see, I retired from Latin American Regional GBC this year, in December. I retired from the executive committee of the Ministry of Education. So many years of struggling, thinking about things, planning. And I was a little frightened because now I'm not in control. But then I began to realize I just don't worry about it anymore. I can see that even though the administration falls apart, if the Brahminical culture is there, if new books are going out, if people are enlivened to talk to other people about Krishna, you know, then writing stories and stuff, then the administration becomes so easy. It can grow back. But if you have administration with no Brahminical culture, then it's like, again, there's nothing inside. It's dead. So we should we have to give up these material attachments, go to the forest. And the best forest, Prabhupada says, is Vrindavan. And he goes on and saying, we have established so many temples. In Vrindavan, there are so many temples. And we've also made the Krishna Balaram Mandir. So retiring, living in the end, Prabhupada set the example. He's an acharya. He went to Vrindavan to leave his body. And maybe somebody it's not possible. They can't get a visa or something. Okay, I've seen this. I've directly seen this. You try and force your way into Vrindavan. It's a very superficial experience. But if you go someplace else where you're supposed to go during Kartik, I never had such an intense Vrindavan experience when I was there. It was in Peru first time. Always just feeling Krishna's presence. So, either physically go there if you can. And if you can't, then we should go there with our mind and we'll experience it like that. That's the best place, he's saying. Which is better, Mayapur or Vrindavan? Past 50 years old, we should become more and more absorbed in these things. And of course, that means you vanaprastha life, okay, strictly no more connection. And I know grihastas, they talk to me confidentially. And some of them are still having problems, with their family, their husband and wife relationships and stuff. And starting to make different things as vanaprasthas. Okay, we'll make this standard. I know one couple they were living separately, but then they made this rule that they would never go into each other's bedroom because that's when they were having problems. Okay, if we don't go into each other's bedrooms, okay, then we're not going to have these problems. And they were fighting and they won. They got free from this attachment. So vanaprastha is for that point. Prabhupada says one should not go to Vrindavan, and he probably says there's already enough monkeys in Vrindavan. There's already enough monkeys in Vrindavan. So don't live like that. And if you're not ready, okay, admit what your level is and live that way properly. Live like a civilized person at different levels. But by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we can take up these different phases like that and go through them. Or an ashram. And it becomes so easy to become a devotee. Okay. One who knows that material happiness, whether good or bad, in this life or the next, on this planet or in heavenly planets, is temporary, yes, okay, and useless, and that an intelligent person should not try to enjoy or even think of such things. Achahara prayasas cha prajalpa niyamagraha janasangascha loilam. Loilam. We should even give up hankering for these things. Such a self-realized person knows quite well that material happiness is the very cause of continued material existence and forgetfulness of one's constitutional position. Paramdrisvam nivartate. What you really cook for Krishna is just cooking for yourself is not the same thing. Of course, we forget that, and we remind him by the regular principles and by association of devotees. Helping to cook the Sunday feast, standard forces us. Yeah. And afterwards, you may not even want to take the feast. You're so satisfied cooking. Wow. Okay. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara taptir dirastatamat namuyate. What will my next body be? Okay. 21. Sukadeva Goswami said, after speaking in this way to his wife, Devayani, King Yayatu, who was free from all material desires, because he tried it out, called his youngest son Puru and returned Puru's youth in exchange for his old age. King Yayati, that's very big, no? If you have a young, healthy body, and then to give it up right away and just do the magic and all of a sudden go into an old body with arthritis, your throat falling apart, eyeballs, teeth missing, putting on, struggling not to put on weight. Socially neglected. Yeah, but it's okay. And you can use an old vehicle to the last moment. That's the whole thing. Use everything up to the very end and you'll be satisfied. Ambarish told me that having all that money is a curse. I'm not sure how much money he makes every day from the Ford Motor Company. So it's a curse because it's all coming in, tempting you, and stimulating in so many ways. He said the only way you could actually live with it is if you worked very hard to see that it was all being used in Krishna consciousness. He was supporting so many projects. People would come and ask for funding. $10,000. What is like $50,000 was small funding for him. Somebody wanted something for some project. They asked him. He said $50,000 I need. He said, oh, okay. Yeah. I was there when they started pounding the pylons in for the foundation for the Boro Mandir in Mayapur, the big temple. Very interesting story architecturally. But they had to pound these big pylons in very deep, and you could hear it all over. When it started, I was in the long building in the communication room there, and you could hear this like wham, wham, like that. And they started to drive them down in. And Ambarish was there with Bhavananda. And they said they were standing together after so many years. And he said the experience was unbelievable. It was like it was going right into his heart. So there's no way I'm ever, not going to be Krishna conscious. I've struggled for so many years. I've invested money. I've tried so hard to make it used properly. And now he said he could feel it. It was just, now it was finally happening. It was being driven down into his heart. Yeah. So even at very, very old age, it's very good. Old age body always reminding you not to be attached, not to be attached. I'm struggling very much now how to honor prasadam properly. When I was a young man running and jumping, I could eat anything. But now, I'm really learning, how to honor prasadam, how this body, particular body, needs to honor prasadam. Yeah. And how do you learn? By being kicked. Yeah. So I'm being kicked and also pulled ahead. So he gave up his old age, his youth, gave it up. He has to be self-realized and gave back to Puru. And now he took his old age like that. Good friend, this divine body. And you can use it then for very, very intense austerities, which you cannot really do in youth even. Like that. Yayati gave the southeast to Druha, south to his son Yadu, west to Turavasu, north to Anu. He divided the kingdom. He enthroned his youngest son Puru as emperor of the entire world, and proprietor of all its riches. He placed all the other sons who were older than Puru under Puru's control. And of course, Puru wasn't arrogant, right? Like he was not to exploit anybody. So being under such a control, you feel, okay, Puru, you're the guy. Having enjoyed sense gratification for many years, he was accustomed to it, but he gave it up entirely in a moment. How many times have we heard that in the ninth canto? If we haven't given it up before the ninth canto, here's the last chance. Before we go into the 10th canto, say, okay, you're not going to be able to go into the 10th canto. You can read it externally, nice fairy tales, nice legends, but you're not going to be able to enter into it unless you can give all these things up. So here's your last chance. Give it all up in a moment, like Katbanga or Yayati. She was liberated. It's certainly an astonishing example. A tiny bird, baby bird, dependent fully on its father and mother, even to eat, suddenly it flies away from the nest when its wings have grown. Similarly, if one fully surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is immediately liberated from the bondage of conditioned life as promised by the Lord himself. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishami. And of course, this is a verse we learned from Bhakti Bhai Baba. Kirata hunanda polenda pokasa abira shambana yavana kasha dayahat. Ye chapa yadapa shraya shrayahat. Sujanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. These are all, many of these are continually existing races. Kirata, the Hunas, Germans are called Huns. Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasa, Abira, Shamba, Yavana, Turks, the Kasha. One of my devotee friends, Jayadas, his father was a colonel in the Turkish army. He's describing, he says, now as a devotee, he can see that such a tamasic culture to be born in the desert. He said, as a joke, who can smoke more cigarettes than a Turk? The answer is 2 Turks. He said, always smoking. He said the soldiers get paid like $5 a year or something. He said when the sergeants get them in line for some inspection, he said it's literally like lining up buffaloes. They beat on them, yell at them, These guys don't even take it as being something normal. And he said, but on the other hand, that they're like dogs and stuff. When they're dedicated to a master, you say you don't get between them. These guys will just, you got to understand they have their mentality. Very simple. They serve a master, And when they're dead, some of them, very often, they have a very simple moral ethic. You die for the captain, that stuff. So all of these people, Karatas, Hunas, Andras, Pulaka, California computer programmers, that's software engineers, IIT graduates, kung fu masters from the south, lazy dragon, sleeping bride, kung fu. They take shelter of the devotees of the Lord. They can all become purified. So Prabhupada came into the culture, he experienced it, and he saw how to relate it progressively. Yes. Lord Vishnu is so powerful, he can deliver anybody. So in one moment, Maharaj Jayati was able to give it up. So he must have actually was a great devotee at heart. It really seems like that. What was he? It seems like he was. Maybe not. Maybe the whole process went on so quickly. But I'm saying more likely he'd already gone through the eight cantos. And I don't know, how many people here, raise your electronic hands, still have material attachments? What does that mean? It means you renounce it again and again, but you can't really get attracted again and again. How many Indian devotees are attracted to eating too much rice? I can't give it up. Garlic, yeah. But in the West, other countries, it's more gross. Whether you're attracted to things in the mode of goodness or the mode of ignorance, ultimately it's the same thing. Okay. So then because Yayati was completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev, okay, so his realization is Paramatma. Vasudev means he who resides everywhere. So because of his self-realization, he was able to fix his mind upon the transcendence. Param Brahman, Vasudev. So we still haven't come to the 10th canto. Thus, he ultimately achieved the position of an associate of the Lord. Okay, now I got a question here for 10,000 points. Save the honor of the Mayapur Institute. Okay, got somebody here. Shubhashini Devidasi. What is the Sanskrit word for liberated as an associate of the Lord? What kind of liberation is that?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
You remember? Sayuja, Salokya.
Maharaj, could you please repeat that question, Maharaj, if it's okay?
Yes, Salokya. What? There's six kinds of liberation, or whatever. There's 5 kinds, and one of them means to get the association of the Lord. So, to live on this, to merge into the Lord's effulgence is Sayuja. Salokya is the same planet.
Yes,
What
Maharaj.
else?
Sarishti is the same opulence. Sarupya is the same form. And
It seems like you know all of them, but the right one is Samipya. I think it's Samipya.
Samipya, yes, Maharaj. Samipya is to be close and have the association of the Lord. Sorry, Maharaj.
I think of it as on a spaceship. We're in outer space, it's Sayuja. We come to the Lord's planet, Salokya. Then we get Sarshti.
Sarishti.
Same opulence as the Lord. But then Samipya, we're actually living with him. And then Swarupya, we have the same form, like that. So it's coming gradually closer. Uddhava has Sarupya. No? Yeah. Okay. Associate the Lord. The word viduti means cleansed is very significant. Everyone in material world is contaminated. Because we are in material condition, we are contaminated. Even if we're devotees, our mind and senses are going to be contaminated or connected to these things. Prabhupada said that. So therefore, we have to have Mangalarti. We have to have mode of goodness every day to get free from these things and get our perspective. And at some point, we get so detached, okay, we can leave our body without these things. And we have to become attached from Mahavishnu Loka, Vaikuntha, Ayodhya, Dwarka, Mathura. Okay, we have to become detached from. To go to the Ras Leela, oh my goodness, you have to be so detached. Even by Sattva Gun. And of course, this is attraction we have to be careful of. I would say this is a difficulty if you're born in a good family in a good country. It is becoming attached to Sattva Gun. I have no difficulty being attached to Sattva Gun because I was born in America. How do we do it? Shenvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantastohiya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam. So important. It's in and of itself as pious activities. So many stories about devotees just being forced to hear and chant, and purifying them. One's original position as an associate of the Lord is revealed. This is called Swarup Siddhi or personal perfection. So here I think it means that we have our eternal relationship with Krishna. I would say what was developed, it could have been developed. This is a big argument over the origin of the jiva. Once you're back in your Swarup Siddhi, can you ever fall down again? So I understand, yes, we have free will. And that's what makes us interesting to Krishna, because Krishna knows we're there because we want to be there, not because we're receiving so much pleasure, not because we're afraid of pain. No, because we want to be there. We're in Goloka and we're serving Krishna. Yeah. So Krishna respects that so much. When Devanayani heard everything, she understood. Okay. And then she also was awakened to her constitutional position. I mean, she was a really rich character. She'd be very, very good in a soap opera. This whole thing would be a very, very nice, afternoon soap opera thing. And of course, people would be really, really like, "Ooh, she was so." These two girls, Sharmista and Devayayani, is such an intense emotional story. You see, very easy for for women to be to relate to these stories and her feelings. But she was able to get free from all of it, even though she was a woman with strong emotional attachments, strong envy of other ladies. Okay, one thinks that there is no God or controller, and that one is independent and can do anything. Okay, not that he thinks he becomes God in the Christian sense. That is kind of boring. I forgot what I meant by that. Okay, in Maya, we think that we're the God and we're the controller and we can do anything. Okay, yeah, okay. The Christian idea of God is very boring. God doesn't do much. In most Christian things, it can go. And you've seen this, but it's so difficult. God is really a very boring person. Devayayani was quite competent to understand her liberated husband. Okay, she's also a good devotee at heart. Therefore, she decided to follow him as a faithful wife. Wow, at heart, she is a devotee like him. So you see this in ISKCON. I see ladies doing things which are shocking, in terms of how they're dealing with people. But then I remember, okay, I've got a male body and I do certain things also, which are probably shocking to ladies. Ladies are shocked by how cruel men can be based on some principle. Based on some principle, men will gas people and do so many things. Whereas ladies, because their sentiment would never be so cruel, following the idea. She understood materialistic life holds. She fixed her mind upon Krishna, achieved liberation. I think the very last verse here is very nice. We're almost there. Namastubhyam Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Sarvabhut Adi Divasya Shantaya Brihat Namaha. Describing such realization is another way of performing bhakti yoga. So just describing these things that we've been doing, it is also bhakti yoga. Okay. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 19th chapter. Any final comment or question in the last 6 minutes? You have 6 minutes to become self-realized. We're all going to die.
I have a question.
Okay. Hema Gopi Devi Dasi. No. Who is it? Hema Gopi Devi Dasi.
Maharaj, you were mentioning that Srila Prabhupada does not quote Prabodhananda Saraswati so much because we belong with Lalita or something. I was wondering how we can understand it. Is there some reference for this understanding?
No, I said that's my opinion. My opinion. From different things. I saw a translation of Prabodhana. Was it what is it? It's the other biography of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Bhagavat, and then the translation with Bhaktisiddhanta's commentary. And the commentary, he was saying, oh, there's the followers, so-called followers of Rupa Goswami and so-called followers of Prabodhananda Saraswati are fighting with each other. And he said, this is not at all proper. He said, Rupa Goswami and Prabodhananda Saraswati never had any disagreement with one another. They always respected each other so much. So that's another thing that, yeah, there were different camps, and Bhaktisiddhanta was accepting these different camps, but with respect for both of them. But, yeah, that it was a different camp. So it's just, again, it's my kind of opinion of looking at things. Hypothesis. So somebody else had a comment there?
I have a question, Maharaj. Can I ask?
Yeah, we got 4 minutes.
Yeah. Maharaj, usually we see that it's not easy to become detached from material enjoyment, just as Yayati has become. As you rightly said, we hear it, we give it up, we again become attached.
Yes.
So what was special with Yayati that in a moment he could give it up and become fixed in Krishna consciousness? And this question can be also related to us. What is the turning point that a devotee moves from anartha nivarti to nishtha? What's that? What I just want to know the detail What
Yeah, it's interesting because that kind of inspires like Adoshwada, Sadhu Sangha, Bharjana Kriya. I wonder if that can be matched up with the different cantos as we're going up from Krishna's lotus feet, like that. It's an interesting proposition. Every single psychological circumstance you can find, you'll encounter in Srimad Bhagavatam. Hansaduta told us, the Prabhupada said that. And so therefore, all these different kinds of people are exemplifying different kinds of psychological situations like that, So I don't know Maharaj Yayati's previous situation, but again, because it's in the 9th canto, that's what I'm thinking. It's really, all these people are very elevated. And so they kind of represent, the final attachments that we can have. The anartas will stay all the way until Bhava. Basically, the gold is completely washed off, sterilized, clean, everything in anarta nivrittis. You can put it in boil it in milk or anything else. It's not going to have any problem. But it still has some discoloration. And there's different kinds of oxides in it and stuff. So you've got to bubble it until it turns to liquid and burn those off before it's completely pure. So to some degree, there'll be some anartas all the way until Bhava. Yeah. But now it's showing us that these people, Maharaj Yayati and stuff, okay, you're there, you're a good brahmachari, everything else, so forth, so on, but you have certain desires, you just can't get rid of them. So you become, a Kardamamuni your next lifetime. And you're very ashamed of having these desires. And Krishna says, hey, you got a material body. The quickest way to get rid of this for you is to experience it. I've arranged a very, very nice marriage for you. She's the daughter of the mayor of Calcutta, like that. She was raised up in a brahmachari ashram. She'll be a veritable cow of plenty in your married life. Sound attractive? You hear these stories and we realize, this is my situation. And it's not, why do I want to go on 5 lifetimes getting rid of this when I can get married, go through it one time, 5 lifetimes, and get rid of it? So let me just get married, do this, have a nice time. Let the stupid brahmacharis laugh at me because they're going to go through this themselves. And, I know it. So different psychological circumstances. And that's what I would say with Yayati. It's almost certainly because Devayayani, such a evil girl. somebody's so feminine in her envy and everything else, But at the same time too, she could understand it and everything else. So it's kind of like Kardamuni. It's kind of like the Kardamamuni and Devahuti in the mode of passion. Devayayani and what's the name? Yayati. So the turning point. We see it. We see it's happening. Basically, you can follow the 4 principles and chant 16 rounds nicely. Okay, that means you're anarta nivritti, stage. If you're doing that, then nishta, you're always getting up from Mangalarti, always chanting your rounds, like that. Prabhupada saying nishta means you're always chanting your rounds. Not some days you're chanting, other days you're not chanting. One time he says that. He said this is more or less 70% Krishna conscious. Nishta. So I guess that's enough for one day because we are German. Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow. It's 4:30 in the morning. And any other questions, please forgive our offenses and stupidity. I wish I could improve these presentations. And then my voice is falling apart, you can see. And so then tomorrow, I guess we can start with next chapter. What happened to Puru after he got back his youth? He went to Disneyland. He bought a motorcycle. He grew a big mustache and a big beard. Okay. Stay tuned for tomorrow for the adventures of Puru in the Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
His Holiness Hanuman Prashak Swami Maharaj ki.
Yeah.
The sun is coming up.
Thank you, Maharaj.